Yeah, if we could have our three speakers all come up and we'll do a little panel. This must be the conference. Folks must know it's the second day. They brought chairs up. We didn't have that luxury yesterday for our panel, so they knew we were still fresh. Today they brought the nice chairs up. So what we will do is we have some runners, I believe, with some mics. Same procedure. We have about 10 minutes here for some questions, and you can direct them specifically or as a collective group. So with that, we'll just turn it over for some questions.
Are any of you doing anything on live haul transport? Just improving that in general?
So the question was, are we doing anything on live haul transport and trying to improve that? We, for market trucks, everything is washed. So it'll be probably a high volume flush with a disinfectant from marketing. We're primarily doing that for PED concerns, not so much for PRRS. And then I mentioned in that live haul tier, so it's a little complex, but a lot of segregation. There's a lot of time that goes into that planning. We dedicate truck washes to classes of trailers. So it's not just wean to market or breed to wean trailers. There's somewhat of a matrix, and it not only does it include the schedule of that trailer, it's the driver, it's the cab cleaning. So it's a pretty in-depth. We just rolled it out, still working through it, but a lot of effort going into that.
Is that your software, or is that available?
No, it's not available. This was home brewed, I think with Excel. It's very technical.
I think for our operations, particularly on the live haul, we've had segregated live haul and market haul for a long time in all of our operations, and put a lot of effort in particularly our North Carolina operations. Over the past 5 years, we've not had a great PED season, and so 2 winters ago really made an effort to focus on some of the sanitation and live haul based on just some experiences some of our vet team had been doing looking at sanitation process, and everybody knows it's not a great job, right? And I think one of the biggest leaps that we had was Dr. Mathis, those of you know Ren, really applied, was getting in and spending a lot of time in truck washes, just trying to understand how much disinfectant we were getting on the trailers and that process, and doing a lot of test strips on the disinfectant and realizing that we're not getting enough disinfectant. Part of it's the dilution factor on a wet trailer and just those processes of how each of the truck washes are set up or retrofitted, et cetera. And so really tried to focus on defining the disinfection protocol, which includes, are you draining the trailer before you disinfect, and what's the actual washing process, and how much time do you actually spend disinfecting, and do you actually get in the trailer to disinfect, or are you disinfecting from the outside? And just to really by truck wash developing a protocol and really continue to put a lot of effort on that. And that we really believe that made a big difference for us last year. We cut our brakes particularly in North Carolina where we had a lot of opportunity, cut our PD brakes in half, right? And that's probably the best year we've had in the past 5 or 6. And so a lot of effort around sanitation, and had one of our veterinarians actually is now kind of in a sanitation support services role, and so that's when they wake up in the morning, that's kind of their thought process, and really spending a lot of time in those, not just the truck washes, market truck washes, transfer stations, and other things that aren't directly farm related, which has really put a lot of focus on that, and a daily or multiple times a week scorecard for some of that, and the visibility has really driven value back into our system on that. So I think there's a lot still to be done there, but we feel like that's been worth it in our advantage. One of the other things we did for most of our systems in the Midwest have had trailer bakers for commercial live haul for a while, just because of the way they were set up. But about 1.5 years ago, we kind of implemented our first commercial truck baker in North Carolina because of the status of some of those farms. And so my personal opinion would be, it'd be great to bake every truck that backs up to a sow farm. The ROI on that is hard to demonstrate, but I think that's a key for us going forward if we could get that done.
We bake everything that backs up to a sow farm. I don't know what the ROI. No, we do. We bake every trailer that touches a sow farm. Trailers that are designated for PRRS negative gilts to PRRS negative sow farms, and PRRS negative gilts to PRRS positive sow farms. So we have those kind of segregated in our fleet, and we do a lot of what we call no-touch loads, where the driver's out of the picture. So if he was hauling something dirty on Friday, like coal sops or something, he's not coming back and hauling gilts on Monday with the same boots, potentially. So the farm will load the trailer, and the receiving farm will unload the trailer, and we kind of pull the driver out of that mix. And in those situations, we would have, transition loadout area where we do have another layer of protection back into the farm as well.
Yeah, I had one question. Have you done anything different, like on sensitive sites or like farrowing site, or as Mary would say, the occasional herd that breaks negative? Do you do anything as far as special testing or changing flows, like having nurseries around, switching those sites to nurseries, or do anything like that around what you'd consider a sensitive site?
So commercial, I think the question was, do we do something different with commercial wean to finish sites that are in close proximity to breeding sites? We do, and that strategy has kind of changed over the years. I remember we had like one site in particular where it's at about a mile from our boar stud, and it broke with PRRS like every time. And then we'd put new pigs in there, and then they just break right away again. And then it was like, well, maybe it's better to not move them out of there and have a continuous acute PRRS break, And so right now what we try to do is put PRRS stable pigs, low prevalence pigs that probably have some immunity, like late in a closure or something, in those areas around our sow farms. But we've changed that strategy a lot over the years in terms of and I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, I think if you look at our system, the biggest opportunity for that is in North Carolina, because that's where we probably have the bulk of sows that are that close to grow finish, right? Most of the rest of our stuff is pretty isolated, and we get the wean pigs out of there. The problem in North Carolina, as most people are aware, is, with the moratorium and not being able to build new sites, is you kind of have what you got, and space for a long time is just, it changed a little bit when we had some people go out of business, and there was some ability to change that around. But being able to just move pigs to another site, we just don't have a lot of open sites and that are just sitting there empty, and so that becomes a little bit of a logistical challenge. We've done a lot of it, like we do some commingling as well, and it kind of depends on the system. We've got some wean to finish, and we've gone back and forth on single source continuous flow versus multi-source all in, all out, and a lot of people have probably been through that, and what's the lesser of two evils. And so in some of those situations where let's say you're pairing up farms together that have, a similar health status, and then one changes, we'll try and tease those apart as quick as we can if you have the ability to do that flex. But because we know it's bad. We know we're making healthy pigs sick by doing that, but we're also constrained by, what do you do with those pigs? Where do you put them, right? We just don't have the luxury of having that available space. It's a commodity in North Carolina, and so if there's a pig space, there's probably a pig in it, right?
Nothing to add.
All right. Question for Pete and a question for Tyler, and I'm too intimidated by the Livestock Hall of Fame to answer Jeremy a question. It's also why I gave him 2 presentations, because I knew he could handle it. So, Pete, on the ones where you've got all the ropes and you still missed it, so a 2-part question. One is, how do you know that they weren't contaminated on transportation? And then number 2 is, if they weren't contaminated on transportation, are you to the point where you consider just dropping ropes in every pen and then starting to pool those ropes to make sure you got representation in every pen? And then Tyler, follow up on you, is define sow therapeutics. You were talking a little bit about that.
So in that example I was talking about, so you're saying, how do I know this? Maybe the site didn't get contaminated by the transport, which in turn infected the gilts going to that source and infected that, because that. Or even just going from. Yeah. They were infected on transportation, now that you missed it. Sure. Well, the site's testing positive now, has repeated and it's spreading. The other thing is it's MLV, and it's a long story, but we had some other sites break with PRRS. We moved these gilts over here about a half mile up the road from a PRRS negative pigs that were vaccinated with MLV, and it floated over or somehow got over. Yes, I'm pretty sure in that case, yeah.
Anti-inflammatories on your question for sow therapeutics. Meloxicam.
Yep. So you talked a lot about grow finish monitoring for PRRS breaks. Can you go through why it is that you think you're seeing PRRS breaks happen in that late nursery overstock period? Like, why is it happening then versus happening mid-grow out or in very recently weaned pigs? I'm just curious about your perspective. That's my first question. And my second question is, how are you monitoring those sites? And is the only time you monitor them in that overstock phase, or are you also monitoring at sale to harvest?
Yeah, so I'll answer your second question first. It's on clinical signs, so I know we're missing them. And how often do we hear the term, it's just flu? And, well, that flu drug on for a while, and by the way, it infected a lot of other things. So we had to break some bad habits, and, you know, and the team, as I mentioned, I have a very veteran team, very fortunate for that. And they're honestly, they're right most of the time that, yep, it's PRRS, they called it. But one thing about us being able to test is that it allows us to communicate to a broader group by having that diagnostic. It's centralized, we can track it. We're utilizing the information, so the sequencing makes tons of sense for us to continue to do that and ramp that up. I have theories on the growth, like the timing. None of it's hard facts, but what I think about is when we start new wean groups, it seems every time we're motivated again, right? I'm going to do really good, but by the time 6, 7, 8 weeks comes around, I'm kind of tired, or maybe I'm getting lackadaisical. The pigs are kind of on their own. That, you know, they don't need much help at that time, and we just kind of maybe take our foot off the gas. So that'd probably be one. We do see a ramp up in ventilation. All right, so there's more air being pulled in, so that's probably a piece of it. And then, you know, just the seasonal factor is you start hitting spring and fall, and you got, you know, corn disease, and you know, where your production partner's not there to, you know, spend that much time. So probably doing some shortcuts on some of the biosecurity entry. Those would be my theories as to why we see it more then. And your pigs still, from an immune standpoint, you know, they're just now kind of getting stabilized from a adequate immunity from being vaccinated, and there's stressors in that wean pig phase. So, you know, the older pigs, they probably weather it a lot better. There's less stress generally in that feeder pig phase. So, and probably they're positive already by like a feeder pig based on what I've been seeing. So, do you think that's the stocking density effect? Yeah. So the question on the stocking density, one thing, it's less pigs from an overall impact. You know, if you have fewer pigs in there, then there's not as many to get infected. So, but it's less stress at the same time. So it's also, if there's less pigs, it makes choring it just a little bit easier, you know, probably multifactorial.